Hello everybody. Ooh, hold up that. There we go. And welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a long video, so grab your hot, cold drinks, whatever you are feeling for the time you watch this video. There will be timestamps, and as you can tell from the title, these are book recommendations, but Zodiac edition, because it's the end of March. Pretty much the end of March. The Magical Readathon is next month, the spring equinox installment. One of the prompts in the syllabus is to watch a Zodiac recommendations video, choose a book that's recommended for your Zodiac sign. Every single one that I watched, not that they were bad, but they only have one, maybe two, and none of the books that were recommended are like, that's not something I would read. Not interested in that. So I was like, I'm gonna make my own. What sets this video apart from the others is that I have 5 book recommendations. I tried to mix up, give as many options as I could. So I have 5 books for every single Zodiac sign. We should probably get started because it's gonna be a long one. I categorized these into 4 sections. If you don't know what the sections are, I'll give you a second. The elements. We are starting with the earth element. The first one I have on my list is Taurus. April 20th to May 20th. They are resolute, grounded, tenacious, and sensual. Their element is earth and their ruler is Venus. Their symbol is the bull. First book or series, most of these are series, that I have to recommend is the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. The first one is called Moon Called. I have them in the mass paper book. Gosh, I can't talk today. Mass paperback editions. We follow Mercy Thompson, who is a VW mechanic. She likes working on German cars. Mercy is a coyote shifter. She's funny, she's hilarious, she's independent. She lives on her own in a trailer. She drives a bug. I just love her freaking character so much. Mercy lives beside a pack of werewolves. She was actually raised by a pack of werewolves as she's a coyote shifter, and her mother at the time did not know what to do with her. Didn't know that her father was a coyote shifter when they were together. She sends her to live with a pack of werewolves to grow up, learn about herself, how to take care of herself when she needs to shift, yada yada yada. In spite of living beside werewolves and growing up with them, she really wants nothing to do with their world. Wolves and coyotes really don't get along together, so she just kind of keeps to herself and tries to stay out of their way. This world also has fae, many different types of fae, vampires, warlocks, witches, and Patricia Briggs really writes them so well. And another thing that she does phenomenally is every single character is brought into this world is mentioned by name or by creature, has a purpose. Not one character is there for shits and giggles, if you will. They all have a purpose. I absolutely love this series. There's 14 or 15 installments within this series, and every single one of them touches upon either taboo or uncomfortable topics, and they are handled and done so well. So please read trigger warnings before you go into a certain installment. Some of them have to do with sexual assault. Some of them are like very violent. Patricia Briggs has just done such a phenomenal job of handling these issues and subjects with care, with an insight to how people feel being in those situations, how different people can react having someone within their life deal with those specific issues, different takes and outlooks, and she just does a phenomenal job with that kind of thing. I highly recommend this series. It's an oldie but a goodie, let me tell you. When was this actually published? 2006. And also, Mercy Thompson's best friend, we'll say, is a vampire who drives the Mystery Machine. If that doesn't get you, I don't know what else will. So second, I have the Violet Eden Chapters by Jessica Shiverington. This is a book that or series that I reread almost every year if I can. It's old. I think it was published in 2010. Yeah, 2010. It's very chosen one, like very with the ages of when this was released in that chosen one era. So we follow Violet. Her mother died during birth, and her father has really left her to her own devices. She cooks, she cleans, he gives her a credit card, and she pretty much takes care of herself. He is, I believe he's an architect or something like that, and he works pretty much 24/7. Violet has two best friends. We have Steph and we have Lincoln. They met during a self-defense class that Violet was taking. Kind of were inseparable ever since. And we also have our love interest, Phoenix, who when he enters the story, her world just blows up. I'm not going to go into more detail than that. It's phenomenal. Next, we have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This was so good. I love anything mythology-based, Greek, Roman, anything. So we follow Achilles, the son of Thetis, King Peleus. We also follow, I always can't pronounce his name. I'm not going to try. I always mess it up and it sounds ridiculous. But we follow Prince, exiled from his homeland after an act of shocking violence. They're brought together. Chiron trains Achilles. The love interest is there. It's a slow burn. It's wonderful. The ending was absolutely phenomenal, and I could not recommend this more. Then we have Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I just finished this book, so I can't attest to the rest of the series, but this one was really, really good. So we follow our two main characters, a male and a female. I never actually ended up looking up the female's pronunciation. I've been calling her Laaya. We first meet her. She helps her uncle and her aunt, her grandfather and her grandmother. They live with them. Their parents were murdered a very long time ago. Her brother comes home, but he brings trouble with him. She thinks that he's working with the rebellion of their world because their people were overtaken. He tells her to run. Her grandparents are murdered. Her brother is taken into custody, if you will. He tells her to run. She does. She finds the rebellion and says, hey, my brother was just taken and my grandparents were murdered because he was working with you. Help me get him back. And they're pretty much like, we'll help you if you help us. Infiltrate this military academy and gather intel for us, and we'll help you get your brother back when it's time and we can get him out. She says, all right, I'll do that. So she's sent to this military academy where our second main character, Elias, is. He is top of his class within this military academy. He doesn't want to be there. We literally find that out in the very first chapter following him. It is not a spoiler. Literally, neither is Elias either. They're literally the first two chapters following their characters, so it's not. So Elias wants to desert, which is treason, and you die for it. But he ends up not doing so because the seers of this world, if you will, kind of find him, and they're like, there are two options. You can run or you can take in your destiny. Neither are really going to make you happy though. And so he stays. It turns out that the emperor needs to be replaced, and to replace the emperor of this world, the top 4 students at this academy fight in trials. The winner becomes the emperor. Their paths cross. It's so good. I can't wait to read the rest of the series. And then last but not least for Taurus, we have Consider Me by Becca Mack. So we follow Carter Beckett and Olivia. What's her name? Olivia Parker. She's a gym teacher. She goes to her best friend's birthday party, and Carter Beckett is NHL's one of best players on and off the ice, let's say, and his teammate girlfriend has a birthday party. All the teammates go, and Carter meets Olivia, and Olivia is like, dude, I want nothing to do with you. And he was like, this woman is freaking beautiful and I want her. It's push and pull. It's a grumpy sunshine, but in all honesty, Carter's the sunshine and Olivia's the grumpy, and I just love their story. Also, Adam within this book deserves the freaking world. I will fight you. I can't. Nope. No. He does have his own book, and it made me so happy to find out that he was getting his own installment. Every book within this series can be read as a standalone. You just won't get the backstory of all the characters that are mentioned or that you meet, but you can read them as standalones. I recommend reading all of them because they're so good, but that's up to you. So next we have Virgo. They are health conscious, analytical, service oriented, and detail focused. Their element is earth, their ruler is Mercury, and their symbol is the Virgin or Maiden. First on this list, I have From Blood and Ash. I really did enjoy this series. I think it was well written. I know people have some qualms with the last book within Poppy and Castile's story, but it was pretty well written. I liked the internal conflicts. I liked the external conflicts. I like our main character. I like the struggles that she goes through and the way Castile really opens her mind to different aspects of life that Poppy was so sheltered to. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So we follow Poppy, who is a maiden of sorts, and she's very sheltered. She wears clothes from head to toe. She wears a veil. Nobody can see her. Special, and she's chosen for this ascension. She's never really told what it's consisted of. She's never really told the meaning or the purpose of her ascension, only that she's extremely important. She's been chosen. Nobody talks about the previous chosen maidens whatsoever, so she really has nothing to compare it to, only what she's told by her superiors. And then we have Castile, who after a tragic incident replaces one of Poppy's guards. He starts to again waken within her desires of not only wanting but to live, to feel, and it's just really, really good. Then we have the Madison Kate series. I chose this for Virgo because I just think, one, it's a good series, but it really does fit because we follow Madison Kate, who was pretty much shipped off because her and her friend went to a underground fight club match for Halloween night, and someone was killed. It was blamed on Madison Kate, but she was shipped off to live with her aunt. She's now back home. The four guys who actually helped her escape and pretty much handed her to the police are now living within her home. And she has no idea why they're there until she finds out that her dad, who is a terrible person, is actually dating their mom. Three of them. They are also different in the way that they interact with Madison Kate, or MK, the way that they deal with her, their expectations for her. They're very different personalities and I love them. They're so funny. The series is phenomenal, but what makes this really interesting is that MK has a stalker and he's been leaving her gifts for years, and he's now done just leaving gifts. Next, we're going to talk about Hatchet. It's a small one, and this is by Gary Paulson. This book, if you are Canadian, you're around my age, this was a staple in school that we read. So we follow Brian Robson. I always want to say Robertson, but it's Robson, and he is on his way to his father's house when his plane crashes and he has to survive in the Canadian wilderness. He is in nothing, I believe, but like a coat, and he has his hatchet that his mom gave him or gifted him, and it's literally his journey surviving until he's rescued in the Canadian wilderness. He encounters wildlife, shelter issues, learning, surviving. This was literally a book that we had to read for school, and it stuck with me. I never took into consideration or took the story really in until I was older and thought about it. I saw this at the bookstore once and saw that he actually had other ones too, and like, what if he was never found? What if he had to live through the winter conditions as well? So like, they're really, really good. I definitely recommend it. It's fast, it's easy, and it deals with children going through parent divorces. So his mom and his dad are divorced, and that's why he's going to visit his dad. And it was just a really good story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Next is Willow's Forbidden Pack by Avery Song. This is not everybody's cup of tea. It's really, really not. We have different hybrids of like vampires, werewolves, warlocks. We follow kind of the hybrids. Willow has magic and had to adapt. She can flip between a male version of herself and a female version of herself. The male version is very much deals with her father's company, like billion-dollar company. He pretty much runs it. His father does nothing except is a conniving, mean person. And Willow, so there's William and then there's Willow, and she's like the escape for them. She fights in a fight club, has a bodyguard that she's in love with, but she meets these other 5 or 6 guys and has a connection with all of them. So it's a reverse harem. Why choose romance, paranormal? There's a lot that happens within this series, but within the first book, someone is trying to kill Willow, overtake her father's company. As William, he tries to stop this. They're a badass character. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Please do your research about the trigger warnings for this series, because there's quite a few, and some of it is depicted, some of it's not, so please do your research before reading it. And then last but not least, we have the Hot Jock series by Kendall Ryan. Our first story follows, again, a hockey player, grumpy sunshine situation, but this time he's grump, she's sunshine. There are some things that happen that they try to, or she tries to force to not want to be with him and stick to her guns, but obviously not. It's a brother's best friend romance, which makes it kind of interesting. It was really good. I loved it. Nothing else to say. Okay, so next we have Capricorn, December 22nd to January 19th. They are traditional, down-to-earth, industrious, and disciplined. Their element is earth, obviously. Their ruler is Saturn, and their symbol is the goat. The first book I have on this list is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. We follow a band of misfits, if you haven't heard of this series, while they try to complete an impossible task that's been given to them. We have a slew of different characters, different personalities. We obviously have some people that are trying to stop them. So within this world, there are the Grisha, which is part of the Grishaverse, or Grishaverse, however you want to pronounce it. And so there are some countries at war, and some of our characters are from those countries. Some of them have difficult pasts. It was really freaking good. I loved it. So next we have For Never by Aurora Rose Reynolds, and we follow Penny, who is covering for a friend as a temp for Jace, and he is a boss of this company. He is asked to come home for a family reunion. He never goes, but his mother is insisting. He's like, okay. He finds her at a bar. She's super depressed because she can't go home because her car had some issues and he wouldn't let her leave early to go get it to be able to drive home the next day. So he finds this out, feels like a dick. And so he's like, well, come with me. And so on the plane, he proposes a proposition to her. Be my fiance to keep my family off my back. She is to be his fiance for the week. I loved the banter. I loved the wittiness. I think as he watches her interact with his family and take his feelings into consideration, they really find a common ground that neither of them were really looking for at the time. Pardon this, but I have a box set and getting the books out are really hard, so I just went with the last one, which is The Last Olympian, but it's the Percy Jackson series, the first one being The Lightning Thief. I've talked about this before on my channel, how special this series is to me and how much weight it holds in my life. And I chose this for Capricorn because I think there's something within this series for everybody. I think Rick Riordan is not only an amazing author, an amazing person, and he's doing a lot for other communities as well. He started Rick Riordan Presents, which allows voices of different races, different religion authors. It's really putting a spotlight on people who otherwise would maybe have a hard time getting into the publishing industry. But we follow Percy Jackson. He and his best friend Grover go to this museum. Percy has a really hard time reading. The letters get mixed up and he can't really read, but they go to a Greek exhibit with their professor who's in a wheelchair. Percy is very surprised when he can read the Greek lettering and it's not difficult for him like it is reading English. Something happens. Percy is very confused. His best friend Grover and this teacher are talking like they know each other more than just student-teacher situation. Goes home that day. Grover shows up, he's talking to his mom like they know each other, and out of nowhere they're in their car on the way to this camp, and he finds out that Grover is actually a satyr and they're being chased by a minotaur, and Percy's life is just up in arms. Come to realize that he is actually a demigod. Something has been stolen, Zeus's master bolt, and people think that Percy has stolen it. He hasn't, so he's sent on a quest to figure out who did. It's super good. I loved it. I will always love it. Next we have The Novice by Taran Matharu. This is a middle grade. So we follow Fletcher, and he is a blacksmith's apprentice, and he comes across this book from a traveler, and he ends up summoning a demon. So there's also a war going on within this world between the elves, the humans, and the ogres or orcs, if you want to call them that. Because of this summoning, Fletcher is chased out of his village for a crime that he didn't commit, and his blacksmith tells him to go to this destination, this school. This school, unbeknownst to, I believe, to Fletcher, maybe he does know, but it's a school for summoners. So summoners are people who can summon demons from another dimension, and they become their pet or animal familiars. Along with nobles and commoners, Fletcher is accepted within this school. He is to serve as a battle mage, as once you can summon demons and actually become a summoner, you become a battle mage, which means you help fight this war. He has new friendships, rivalries, sabotage within this school, and Fletcher really has to decide where his loyalties lie. We have different creatures within this world. Like I said, there's elves, ogres or orcs, there's dwarves, and a few other creatures, but I love the series. I believe it's a trilogy, and then we have I believe it's Outcast, which is like a prequel following one of the teachers at this school. But we find out, you know what, I'm not gonna spoil that. Read the series. Just read it. It's good. There are some wonderful plot twists in here. Last but not least for Capricorn, we are going to talk about Evernight by Claudia Gray. Okay, so we follow Bianca at this school where her parents are also teachers, and she knows she doesn't fit in. There's just something different about her, as well as Lucas, and he warns her to be careful at this school. She doesn't know why, but they develop a very deep connection. There are some secrets that her parents have been keeping from Bianca. They come to light and they make her question everything she's ever known. It's an old series. Again, this was early 2000s release, 2008. It's very much the chosen one. She meets the love interest, her world falls apart eventually, but it's very good, and some strange things are also happening at the school that Bianca is unsure of. So it's very good, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so now we are moving on to water signs. The first water sign we're going to talk about is Cancers. So Cancers are June 21st to July 21st. We have compassionate, giving, sentimental, and nurturing. Their element is water. The ruler is the moon. And their symbol is the crab. First, we have the Mom-Com series. So this is a series of novels following moms, I believe there's 4 of them, who decided to move into this old brownstone with their 7 kids and live the lives that they know that they can. So the moms are friends. Obviously every book follows a different mom, but I read one of them and it was so good. It was funny. It was following the mom that actually owns the brownstone. She has a contractor show up at her house willing to do the work to fix it up, and he gets on her nerves, but they also fall for each other. It was so sweet, so funny. It's a rom-com, right? The mom-coms, and they're just so funny. I loved the story. I'm reading 2 more for the spring equinox Magical Readathon installment, and I'm super excited for it. They're just so funny. Okay, then we have Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. This is the first book in the Vancouver Storms series. I'm just gonna read the back because it does a better job at describing this novel than I will ever do. He's the hot, grumpy goalie I had a crush on in high school. Now I'm his live-in assistant. After my ex crushed my dreams in the music industry, I'm done with getting my heart broken. Working as an assistant for an NHL player was supposed to be a breeze, but nothing about Jamie is easy. He's intimidatingly hot, grouchy jerk who can't stand me. The guy has a massive ego. Keeping things professional will not be a problem. Even when he demands I move in with him. Beneath his surliness, though, Jamie's surprisingly sweet and protective. When he learns how bad my ex was in bed, his competitive nature flares and he encourages and spoils me in every way. The creative spark I used to feel about songwriting, it's back and I'm writing music again. Between wearing his jersey at games, rowdy parties with the team, and being brave on stage again, I'm falling for him. He could break my heart, but it might be worth it. This is a slow burn, grumpy sunshine, sweet, funny romance. Then we have the first book in the Drowning Empire, I think, but it's The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. I have not read this, but I'm planning to. And from what I gather, this is a phenomenal book series. I don't know if it's a duology, a trilogy, if it's a longer series or not. From what I gather, this novel follows our main character, who's a princess. Her dad is the king, and he trifles with some dark magic called bone magic, and he refuses to see her as an heir. And so she wants to prove herself by dabbling within the same magic. I don't know anything else. I'm assuming there's some political intrigue, some sabotage. I don't really know, but it sounded really good. Don't know if there's a romance in this. I don't know what's going on, but it sounded good. I've heard nothing but phenomenal things about this story, so I'm here for it. Then we have Heroes of Olympus. This is The Lost Hero, the first book, and we follow Jason, who randomly finds himself on this bus on his way to a field trip to this place, and he's super confused, doesn't remember how he got on the bus, but his 2 friends are like, dude, are you okay? What's going on? Some crazy things happen. They get saved by this chick named Annabeth, who's looking for her boyfriend, Percy Jackson. They have no idea who he is, but they're gonna help her find him. I loved it. The whole premise of this series is so great. I love I'm not gonna spoil it. It's fantastic. You should dive into it, especially if you liked Rick Riordan's other works. And last but not least for Cancer, we have the Destiny series by C.J. Cook. We follow our main character, who is human, and the humans of this world all get tested when they become a certain age to see if they have a magical rating. Well, she's painstakingly human. She's like, I'm not gonna register. Obviously she registers. She's whisked away to this school to learn her craft, and some weird things are happening within the school. One, her magic isn't like everybody else's, of course. How could it be? And two, some strange things are happening at this school that nobody can explain. The school ends up getting invaded, and she and her other love interests, I think there's 4 of them, and she helped protect the school. I put this on here just because of the generosity, I think, is one of the traits for this. She sacrifices so much in this whole series and is hardly given back anything from other characters other than her love interests within this story. She saves species, she's saving children, students, teachers, packs, because there's different creatures within this world. There's elves, werewolves, witches. We also have some Norse mythology that comes into this series, which I think is really cool, and it's done very, very well. And she just gives so much of herself that I thought this was a perfect series to put into Cancer. Then we have Scorpio. October 23rd to November 21st. They are mysterious, majestic, power-seeking, and spiritual. Their ruler is Pluto and Mars. They're obviously a water element, and their symbol is a scorpion. We have The Beautiful Demon Saga by Sarah Cannon. This series is phenomenal. For one, Sarah Cannon is a wonderful, wonderful author. So we follow our main character who is sent to live in this boarding house because it's kind of her last resort. Strange things have happened at her previous houses or placements within the foster care system. She gets shipped off to this little town. The boarding house that she's in has very strict rules. The school that she's now attending is very odd. The people kind of look at her funny, and she gets sucked into this kind of secret society that's whispered about within this town. I'm not going to go into more detail than that. It's phenomenal. It's super good. Next, we have the Black Spades trilogy by Steph Maka. This trilogy is so freaking good. It's a new adult, you could say, because they're in high school, and we start off with our main character. It's just one perspective. It's a reverse harem with 3 other guys. It's our main character's birthday. Her birthday starts off with her car blowing up, and she's like, that's really freaking weird. So she ends up getting to school, and the school bad boy, I guess, has his eye on her, and weirded out by this because he never talked to her, looked at her. She didn't even know that he knew that she existed. And some really strange things are starting to happen. Her house gets broken into, and she ends up running away to these guys' houses because they're like brothers. They are the bad boys. They're part of the Black Spades gang. She runs to them for shelter and protection. The twists and turns within this series, or this trilogy, I did not see coming whatsoever. Steph Maka has done a fantastic job. Then we have A Court of Thorns and Roses. I'm not going to grab the book. I'm just going to insert a photo. This I added in here because I thought it was a very fitting novel or series to add in here, just because it's mysterious, majestic, power-seeking, and spiritual. So we follow Feyre as she's hunting for her family because her dad is a cripple. His leg doesn't work, and so he's really used this as a crutch. So she provides for her family. So her father and her 2 sisters that are kind of princesses do nothing to help her provide for them. She's deer hunting, and she sees this wolf, and she wants the deer to help feed her family. So she kills the wolf who is going after the deer. She thinks nothing of it. Later on, she gets the meat and she sells the pelt and yada yada yada. Her house is stormed into by this huge beast accusing her of killing a fae. There was a war a very long time ago, and now there is a wall between the human lands and the fae lands. One of the stipulations for this treaty and the wall was no human should kill a fae without cause or something like that. And she did, as the wolf turned out to be fae, and she pays with her life, either by being killed or living within the Faelands for the rest of her life. She chooses the Faelands. Her family is just like never come back. Some things happen. She finds out that there's a plight within this world. Nobody will tell her why. It really takes off from there. Then we have the Ravenhood trilogy by Kate Stewart. This trilogy will rip your heart in two. You will laugh, you will cry, you will sob uncontrollably. And at the very end of it, you will ask yourself, what happened to our author? Is she okay? Because the things that she writes is crazy. Crazy, crazy good. It's fantastic. I'm just gonna read the back. Can you keep a secret? It wasn't at all what it seemed, nor were the men that swept me under their wing. But in order to keep them, I had to be in on their secrets. Secrets that cost us everything to keep. That's the novelty of fiction versus reality. You can't relive your own love story, because by the time you've realized you're living it, it's over. At least that was the case for me and the men I trusted my foolish heart to. Looking back, I'm convinced I willed my story into existence due to my illness. And we were all punished. So we follow our main character, Cecilia, who is living with her father, and one of the stipulations of this is that she works at his company. There she meets this guy. He invites her to his house for a party, and that's where I'm gonna leave it. And last but not least, Crown of Feathers by Nikki Poporetto. This trilogy is fantastic. I read it a few years ago. I plan on reading it again soon. I highly recommend the audiobooks. That's how I originally read it, and they're phenomenal. So I'm just gonna read the inside flap because it does a better description than I could ever think of myself. I had a sister once. In a world ruled by fierce warrior queens, a grand empire was built upon the backs of phoenix riders, legendary warriors who soared through the sky on wings of fire until a war between two sisters ripped it all apart. I promised her the throne would not come between us. 16 years later, Veronica is a war orphan who dreams of becoming a phoenix rider like the heroes of old. After a shocking betrayal from her controlling sister, Veronica strikes out alone to find the riders, even if it means disguising herself as a boy to join their ranks. But it is a fact of life that one must kill or be killed, rule or be ruled. Just as Veronica finally feels like she belongs, her sister turns up and reveals a tangled web of lives between them that will change everything. And meanwhile, the new empire has learned of the riders' return and intends to destroy them once and for all. Sometimes the title of queen is given, sometimes it must be taken. Crown of Feathers is an epic fantasy about love's incredible power to save or to destroy. Interspersed throughout is the story of Ava Lakira Ashfire, the last rider queen, who would rather see her empire burn than have it all fall into her sister's hands. It's Veronica finding friends, love, dealing with family issues, and huge plot twists. Some of them you can see coming and some of them you can't. And Veronica was very sheltered because of her sister, so now wanting to join this league of Phoenix Riders, she's interacting with humans in a way she never has before. She's making friends and connections, and her controlling sister shows up just as she's starting to get comfortable and figuring out who she is, regardless if it's disguised as a boy. Yeah, it's amazing. I highly, highly recommend this series. It's phenomenal. I love it. I love it so much. Last water sign we have is Pisces. February 19th to March 20th. They are empathetic, artistic, psychic, and dreamy. Obviously their element is water, their ruler is Neptune, and their symbol is the fish. We have Blue is for Nightmares by Laura Ferreira Stolars. I own this whole trilogy, but it's at my parents' house, so I'm just gonna insert a photo. So Blue is for Nightmare. We follow Stacy. She's in her junior year at boarding school. She's not super popular and she's starting to have nightmares again. This time they're about her best friend Drea, a serious psycho stalker. This started with emails and now phone calls, and they're leaving Drea white lilies. And the white lilies are also showing up in Stacy's nightmares about Drea and her stalker. And this isn't the first time she's had these very lifelike dreams. They happened 3 years ago and the person ended up dying. So she doesn't want to not take them into consideration. With everyone as a potential suspect, she turns to her folk magic taught to her by her grandmother. It's creepy. It's wonderful. It's nothing like anything I've read before, especially at the time when it came out. Next is his Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. Again, I own this trilogy. It's at my parents' house. So this is The Golden Compass, if you've ever watched the movie. We follow Lyra, and she's trying to go as far north as she can, where witch clans and the armored bearers rule. There are gobblers, and gobblers are people who take children with magic. And one of her friends was taken, and she's trying to rescue him. And it's absolutely phenomenal to read. Again, another one that I own, that is at my parents' house, is A School for Good and Evil by Saman Chainani. I know that this was recently made into a TV show, but I read this series, or at least the first book, long before that, and I really loved the premise of this novel. So we follow two friends. One is dead set that there is a school for good and evil, and she is going to be the good. She is princess-like, and the other friend is kind of not what you would think as princess material. And the school, I believe, is cut in half. Anyways, that does not go to plan, and they actually switch roles, which nobody saw coming. So it's them really figuring out what's going on in this world, how things are happening, realizing who they really are inside, and their journeys as friends. Do they stay friends? Does something happen? Is there conflict between them? How do they deal with that conflict? It was really interesting to read. I loved the take. I loved the complexity of all the characters, the knight in shining armors and the magic, and I just really loved all of it. It was fantastically written. The atmosphere, you felt like you were there and you can see what's going on, and sometimes middle grade novels don't do that for me, just because they are meant for a younger audience, which I understand, but when I read this, it was fantastic. Then I have Nocturnal, which I own, but it's packed away because we're doing the office reno. And Nocturnal by Wilder Poetry is literally just a poetry collection, but I wanted to include it because there's a lot of deep, meaningful things within that poetry collection. I loved it. I love the symbolism. The words were so beautifully written. It made me feel things, question things, myself, my beliefs, my outlooks on the world. And it was, again, just beautifully written. The pages in the dark and the light, and the doodles and the symbolism within the stories, or the poetry, was just phenomenally done. And then last for Pisces is 9 Days by Jolena Falk, and this is the first book in the Unfrozen 4 series. Follow a girl who is planning a suicide, and she has an older brother. One day, our playboy hockey star on campus finds her journal. He peeks in it, realizes what it is, and without telling her right away, he finds her and tries to stop her from committing suicide. So very much trigger warning. And she writes in this journal about her last days, and he makes a deal with her for her to give him a period of time, for him to show her how beautiful life can be and make her want to live again. And it's emotional, it's gripping. I was not expecting it. It made me feel things because I went through a period of my life where that was also something that I had thought about, and I was very young at the time. Like, I was in high school, not college, where this takes place. And yeah, it's hard hitting, very meaningful, and Jolena, if that's how you pronounce her name, does such a fantastic job of portraying both characters dealing with this issue. She handled it so well, so well, and it was very emotional. I actually didn't read anything for a few days after, not because of a slump, but just I highly recommend that book. It was a phenomenal book and I really loved it. It has stayed with me for 2 years. I read it 2 years ago and it stayed with me ever since. Air signs. We're starting off with Gemini. We have May 21st to June 20th. They are witty, curious, charming, and flighty. Their element is air. Their ruler is Mercury, and their symbol is the twins. I have Offside by Avery Keelan, but it's the first book in the Rules of the Game series, and Offside is one of my favorites at hockey romance. It's fun, it's funny, the characters are really good. So we start off with our female main character. She's out to dinner for her 21st birthday with her boyfriend, and he dumps her on her birthday at a restaurant in public. Way to start your new birthday year. Yeah. That's literally the opening scene of this book. Her friends are like, all right, we're taking you out on the town. She gets super drunk and she sees this guy. Enter our male main character. He's a hockey player for the rival team after his friends convince him, after a bet against their rivals, that if they get specific things like how many goals and hat tricks and stuff like that, then he'll go out because he doesn't go out with them much. Anyways, it ends up happening and he goes out and he sees this girl that he thinks is attractive. He flirts with her and she's like, nah dude, I want nothing to do with you. So then later on she finds him again and is like, you know what? Who cares? She knows exactly who he is, and he finds out, or she, sorry, is one of their rivals' sisters. Turns out he actually likes her. She's super drunk and he will not take advantage of her. So he was gonna walk her home, but he ends up taking her back to his place. She vomits everywhere, on his shoes, on herself. He like washes her clothes overnight and like gives her a shirt to change into, and he sleeps on the couch. Anyways, he's just really sweet about it. She writes for the school newspaper in the sports section, and she covers a hockey game. So her ex plays hockey with her brother and she always goes to their games. And so she goes there. Her friends and roommates also are dating players of the team, and she's with them after the game and she's like, all right, I'm gonna head out, until she sees her ex with some other girl, and he kind of flaunts it in her face almost. Our main character comes out of the locker room, sees her face, and he's like, oh hell no. So he goes up to her, throws his arm around her shoulders like, you ready to go babe? Or calls her by her last name or something, and she's like, yeah. And once they get outside, she's like, what was that? You just blew up my life. And he was like, look like I helped you actually. And it's just, they become friends. It obviously develops into more, and it's just super sweet. I loved it. Then we have Emily Wild series by Heather Fawcett. The first one being Emily Wild's Encyclopedia Fair. We follow Emily, who is a student, and she goes off to this remote town that she's not politely received in. She wants to write this encyclopedia of fairies, and she believes that there are a lot of fairies in this town or within folklore of this town, and again, she's not met with niceties. Her colleague, but also enemy, shows up and wants to help her or do his own. And she thinks that he could also be a fairy because everybody within this town is just smitten with him. And that's one of the fairy qualities. It wasn't the best written book, but I really loved the premise and the whimsical, the flighty. I really liked that, and I thought it fit perfectly within the Gemini Then we have fourth wing. I put this on here for the sole purpose of flighty, but not in like your typical way. So we follow our main character, and she has a condition, and her father was a scholar and her mom is like a commander or high up within the dragon riders, let's say. And she's like, no daughter of mine will do that, you're gonna be a rider, and blah 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 blah. So anyway, she enters this school. You have a series of trials that you need to pass, and a dragon has to choose you. The whole book, our character doesn't think that she has what it takes because she sees herself as weak. She sees herself as flighty. She sees herself as not enough mentally, physically, and emotionally. She doesn't believe in herself. She is immediately disliked, and her rival tries to make her life a living hell, not knowing that she has already kind of put herself there. It's good. It's not phenomenal. I can see why it has so much hype, which is why I put it on this list. But it's also the fact that the personal journey that our character goes through to seeing that she's enough, not being as flighty, being courageous and curious. I just thought it fit really well. Then we have Rule Number 5 by Jay Wilder. It's the first book in the Rule Breaker series. We follow our main character who has her entire life planned out. Then her and her friends are out one night. Their college hockey team has won a game or something significant. One of the players finds her extremely attractive and tries to talk her up. One of her rules is to never date a hockey player, solely because her father was a hockey player and he left her and her mom. Obviously our hockey player is like, nah, I feel an attraction to this girl. She doesn't dress like his usual hookups with puck bunnies. She kind of wants nothing to do with him in the hockey sense. Then they make a bet, and Jax wins. One kiss leads to more. And last but not least, for Gemini, I have The Falconer. As you can see, I've tabbed this by Elizabeth May. It's part of a trilogy. So we follow our main character, Eliana, and this takes place in Edinburgh, 1844, and she's the only daughter of Marquess, is that how you say it? And she's super smart. She looks the part of an aristocratic young lady, but she leads a double life. She has a rare ability to sense the Fae. Fairy race is obsessed with slaughtering humans. She watched one of them kill her mother, and so she, to the society, is crazy, unorthodox, because there are rumors that she killed her mother or she saw her mother get killed, and it really messed her up. And now Eliana has dedicated her life to killing fairies because of this incident. It's this steampunk 1844 situation. Her friend is hilarious, but she also has another secret, and the person training her to kill the Fae is a Fae himself. It's not a long read, it's not complicated, but there's something about Elizabeth May's writing that I want more of, and I'm super excited because her To Cage a God or something like that just came out, and if it's as good as this, I am super excited to read that. So next we have Libra, and Libras are September 23rd to October 22nd. They're romantic, artistic, indecisive, and dynamic. Obviously their element is air, their ruler is Venus, and their symbol is the scales. Okay, so next we have Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. This is part of the Witchland series. We follow our two main characters who are female. They're best friends. They're, I think, thread sisters or heart sisters or something like that, which means that they can kind of feel each other. They know where each other are at all times or how they're feeling. So we have a Truth Witch and a Thread Witch. So Sophia is a Truth Witch, so she can tell when you're lying, and Iseult is a Thread Witch, so she can see the threads connecting people to others. They just want to be free. So Truth Witch and Thread Witches are very, very sought after by the people who rule these countries because, one, they can tell if the diplomats or the dignitaries of this world are lying, for one, which is very, very resourceful to a kingdom, as well as a thread witch, because they can tell if there's a traitor in their midst or not because of where their threads go or the color of their threads. And they're on the run, and a blood witch is trailing them. They have to get away from this blood witch. They end up getting split up. It's their journey to find each other as well as themselves. And I really enjoyed this series. I wish we got more of the 3 or 4 books in this series, and then there's also Sight Witch, which is like a prequel, but we're following different characters. So we meet a prince in here as well as the Blood Witch. One of them follows, one of the installments follow each of those. They have their own stories, but I wish we got more of these two because this is where it starts, and there are sacrifices that both of them make, and they're kind of on their own journeys trying to find each other, and I wish this story was more, and then we got the other ones. I don't know, it was just really good. Then we have Ever the Hunted by Erin Summerall. This was a very good book. It's part of the Clash of Kingdoms series. We follow Britta. She's extremely good with a bow as well as a dagger, as her father was a bounty hunter for the king, and he was murdered, and it's said that he was murdered by his apprentice. So with her father being no more and his title no longer being the bounty, like the king's bounty hunter, the land that she lives on is being confiscated back to the kingdom, and she's caught hunting on the king's land. It's either death or serve me, and the way you're going to serve me, if you well choose, is to find the apprentice and bring him to justice for your father's murder. So she says yes, but the apprentice and her have a history, a romantic history. As she's on her quest to catch the apprentice who killed her father, allegedly, she's also accompanied by a few of the king's men. One of them hates her. One of them is indifferent. There's a magic system within this world, and Britta didn't know that she possesses this magic until she needs it one day. She actually uses it to try and help her quest to find her father's apprentice. Then we have the Red Queen series. It's one of my favorites of all time. It's by Victoria Aveyard. Basic premise of this book is that, again, we have warring countries, but we also have a class system that's based on blood. So we have silver blood, and if you're silver blooded, you have magical powers of some sort. And if you're red blooded, you're like a regular person and you're kind of a slave to this world. You're the one who really fights the battles for this kingdom. Mal, our main character, all of her older brothers have gone to war. One of them has died. There's also a rebellion. Due to something happening to her younger sister, she has to kind of put her pride aside, and she tries to get a job within the castle. Unbeknownst to her at the time, this is when the prince is looking for a princess, someone to become queen. Some crazy thing happens, and she actually has powers, but her blood is red. So the king and queen and the two princes try and kind of fool everybody that she's this long lost heir of this family line that's been died out for an extremely long time, and this was like her coming out debut, if you will. Has to keep this secret. She has to train with the women who are trying to become queen, and as it turns out, she's actually met the prince previously. He helped bring her home one night when she needed it. Have deceit, political intrigue, romance, backstabbing. It's a phenomenal series. I highly recommend it. So then we have the Until series, and this is also by Aurora Rose Reynolds. I've mentioned her as an author already. This series first starts out with Until November. We follow November as she is reconnecting with her father that she didn't know wanted her at all, and she was attacked where she used to live, so she takes a road trip to her father to live with him. He's got her a job at his strip club, strictly doing the books. She hardly needs to be there, but upon going there she gets introduced to everybody that she needs to, and then she's on her way out to her car. Some guy stops her and she's like, hey, what's up? And he pretty much thinks that she's a stripper there because she was calling her dad daddy. He was like kind of making her seem like a slut. And he was like, I don't really care who you are to her father, but you need someone to walk you out when you leave the club. And she's very confused by this. She's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you were calling him daddy and stuff. And she's smirking because she now has put together what he thinks of her and what their interaction was until her father actually comes out. And he's like, oh, I think his name's Ash. Oh, Ash, I see you've met my daughter. And then he does like a what? Like, I didn't know you had a kid. So yeah, anyways, that's where their romance really starts off, and he offers to get drinks with her at this bar, and he's kind of controlling, kind of an asshole, but she kind of also really thinks he's super cute, and their romance really starts out from there. And the Until series, the main series, follows Ash, I think his name's Ash, and his brothers, and then the later on Until series follows their kids. And it's super sweet. I love each and every single story because the love interests that aren't part of the family always have some backstory or some baggage, if you will. The men are always super sweet. They're a little demanding, but there's also, once you get to the kid portion, they have females and stuff too, but they are just really phenomenally written. I love Aurora Rose Reynolds as an author. Last but not least, we have Snitch by Alison Van Diepen. This is a very hard-hitting story. It's kind of a teen life. She's also the author of Street Farm, Raven. There's a few amazing stories she's written, but we follow Julia. She lives in a part of town that is very gang affiliated. She has no colors. She is not in with the gangs, but just from growing up with these people, she's become close with a few of them, but everybody at her school, as well as other gangs, know that she is not within any gangs. So she's not really targeted for anything or anything like that. She's very neutral within this world. And insert our love interest, and he comes into her life and kind of everything changes. He meets her friends. He ends up joining a gang. Julia ends up joining one as well. Some things happen. There are betrayals. There are attacks, assaults. I read this. This was the book that got me into reading. This was the book that gripped me, and the book that started my reading journey, the one that started the dream of wanting to be an author. So this book is very, very special to me. The storyline, everything about it, it's well written. I've still reread this, but yeah, it was published quite a long time ago. It was published in 2007. I think my mom got me this book in 2009. I've loved it as well as reading ever since. And last but not least for the air symbols, only 4 more left, guys, I promise, is Aquarius, and it's January 20th to February 18th. They're humanitarian, eccentric, individualistic, and cool. Again, element air, ruler is Uranus, and their symbol is the water bearer. First and foremost on this list, we have The Daughter of Sparta by Claire M. Andrews. Follow our main character, and she has spent her entire life training to be a warrior, hoping to be accepted by this ancient society of Sparta. Daphne's brother gets taken, and she encounters Artemis, goddess of the hunt, and 9 items or artifacts have been stolen from Mount Olympus, and Artemis tasks Daphne with getting them back, and in return getting her brother back. That's all I'm going to say about it. Next we have the Shepherd King series by Rachel Gillig. One Dark Window. That's the first book. We follow our main character who lives in this world where there's a plague or an illness, and when you have this, it's kind of like, I think it's tarot cards almost. You inherit a demon of some sort and you get magical powers depending on whatever demon you get or inhabits you or something like that. I have not read this. I want to. It's on my list for the Magical Readathon and I am super excited about it. That's really all I know, what I gathered. I didn't want to read too much into it because I feel like this is a story that I don't want to have any expectations for. I've heard mixed things, so I don't want to kind of persuade myself one way or the other. Next is the Crooked Crow series by Elena Lawson. This series is freaking phenomenal. It's another new adult reverse harem. The people we follow are in this boarding school, and our main character, she is sent to live with her rich great-grandmother. Her father was killed and her mother was an addict who wanted nothing to do with her. She ends up going to this boarding school. She gets on the wrong side of these 3 guys. They're part of the Crooked Crows, which is kind of a gang.
I do not know what happened here, but the footage got cut off. I will leave the link to this series on Goodreads down below, and if you want to check it out, feel free.
Okay, and last but not least, the element of fire. Okay, so first on this list is Aries, and they are March 21st to April 19th. They are competitive, energetic, impulsive, and fearless. Their element is fire. The ruler is Mars, and their symbol is the ram. The first book I have for Aries is Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This is the Renegades trilogy. It's the first book. We follow 2 main characters that are on opposite sides of this war, if you will. We have heroes and villains. The female main character, Nova, is a villain, and she has been sent to this hero school to infiltrate it. And then we also follow Adrian, who is a hero. They have powers and they're pretty much trained to stop the villains of this world. There's a bit of a romance friendship going on. This is a middle grade, I believe, classified as a middle grade. I'm just gonna read the little blurb. The Renegades are a syndicate of prodigies, humans with extraordinary abilities who emerge from the ruins of a crumbled society and establish peace and order where chaos reigned. As champions of justice, they remain a symbol of hope and courage to everyone, except the villains they once overthrew. Nova has a reason to hate the Renegades, and she's on a mission for vengeance. As she gets closer to her target, she meets Adrian, a renegade boy who believes in justice and in Nova. But Nova's allegiance is to the villain who has the power to end them both. It's fun. Again, I highly recommend the audiobook for this trilogy. It was phenomenal. Then there's the Inheritance games. I have not read this trilogy, I think it is, or series. I'm not quite sure. I haven't read it, but I've heard phenomenal things. I've also heard going into it not really knowing much is the best strategy to follow. And that's kind of what I like going into series, is not really knowing what's gonna happen. Obviously there's a competition as it's the Inheritance games. I don't know if it's for money, I don't know if it's for an empire, I don't know if it's for a kingdom, I have no idea, but it sounds really good, super intrigued. Plan on reading it soon. Then we have the Devabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty, the first one being City of Brass. What I know of this trilogy is that we follow our main character who's a thief. And while she's stealing something, or after she's stolen it, she sets loose a spirit that's like of chaos or trickery or something like that. Again, we have a war of two countries or kingdoms. She is on the run with this spirit. They travel together to this other kingdom. Her arrival sets forth a chain of events that are not good, but they're not terrible at the same time. Again, this is the type of series that I don't like knowing a lot going into, and I'm really excited to read this. Again, I've heard nothing but good things about this. I think I'm gonna do the audio version because I've heard that's the best way to read the book. Then we have the Shifter series by Rochelle Vincent. The first one being Stray. We follow Faith while she's at college. Faith one day is walking from a class and smells something really weird. So she goes into an alley where she's attacked. She protects herself, and later on her ex finds her and says she needs to come home because tabbies are being taken. So Faith says, hell no, Dad said I had this amount of time, but her life is on the line here. And so she ends up going back home. So tabbies are very rare within this world. So when someone births a tabby cat, they are extremely precious because they don't come around often. But that also makes them high targets within this world as well. I've owned this for probably as long as it's been out. 2007. No, I think I got this in 2009 or 2010. So a few years after it came out, but it is so good. I've lent this to friends who have fallen in love with the characters. They're great. I used to reread this series a lot. And then last but not least for Aries, I have the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas. If you don't know, you must have been living under a rock for a while because Throne of Glass is a very popular series by Sarah J Maas. When we first meet Selena, she is in a salt mine, which is like a prison. And that's where she meets the Crown Prince of Ardalan, who gives her an ultimatum. Be his champion within the king's games, I guess you could say, to become his champion, which is pretty much the person who is told to kill people or to get information from people and just do what he says. So she fights to become the king's champion, and she'll have her freedom within a number of years. She agrees, as she just wants her freedom back. The champions are getting picked off one by one, and nobody can find the killer. So it's this big mystery. Nothing bad to say about it. Let's move on to Leos. So Leos are July 23rd to August 22nd. They're charismatic, generous, optimistic, and dramatic. Element is fire, ruler is the sun, and their symbol is the lion. So first and foremost, I have The Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead is definitely an old favorite of mine. So we follow two friends, Lissa Dragomir and Rose Hathaway. This is within a world where there are humans, but we also have vampires. The Moroi, that are royal vampires. Then we have the Strigoi, which are bad vampires. Then we have the Dompiers, and they are half human, half vampire. So one of their parents is a full-blooded vampire, like a Moroi, and their other half is a human. They are tasked with protecting the Moroi, as since they are also human, they don't need blood to survive. Their diet contains food like a human would, and they can walk in the sun. Lissa and Rose and Lissa are best friends. They were in an accident that ended up killing Lissa's entire family, her mother, her father, and her brother. So she's the last of her line. 2 years of freedom as they ran away. They are found and brought back to St. Vladimir. And Lissa is supposed to be in line for queen of the Moroi. So when they go back, they're obviously punished for running away. Rose and Lissa have to navigate through the dangerous world as they find out that their accident may not have been an accident. It may have been done on purpose. So yeah, it's them navigating high school pretty much with their individual responsibilities. There's a little bit of everything, and it's an urban fantasy, so it takes place within our world, and I think that's really cool. Next we have Fortuna Swan series by KJ Sutton. This series is phenomenal. I loved it. So we follow Fortuna Swan, and she is a nightmare. She's one, if not the last of her kind, and she is searching for her brother who was taken. And she ends up meeting this guy. They make a bargain. If you come with me, I'll show you where your brother is. I know where he is, but you need to help me, kind of thing. And so she goes with him to his court to find out that he's like king. It's spicy political intrigue. We got traitors. We got sabotage. We have, oh, definitely some trigger warnings. Please read those before reading this novel or this series. It's really good. I actually heard about this first from Becca in the books, and I've liked it ever since. It was so good. Two left. The Darkest Minds series by Alexandra Bracken. So this one we follow, what's her name? Ruby. And in this world, children have been developing very dangerous powers. So all the children, when they present these powers, are taken to camps where they are cared for. To no one's surprise, they're not cared for. They're pretty much concentration camps for children with powers. And Ruby wakes up one day and her parents don't know who she is. She's taken to one of these camps as a young girl. She noticed when she shows up to this camp that some colors are treated differently than others. And so she's tricked the camp into thinking she's one color when in reality she's not. Now that she's older, she's 16 in the present timeline, she realizes how dangerous she is. And when the truth about Ruby's abilities comes to light, one of the scientists and doctors sneaks her out of this camp. She's bringing her to a safe place. Something happens and she ends up running away with this group of kids. And it's them trying to get to this sanctuary for other children like them that have powers. Okay, and then last but not least, the Guild Hunter series. The first book being Angel's Blood. So, in this world, we have vampires, we have angels, archangels that rule specific continents, and then we have guild hunters. They are essentially humans, sometimes with extra abilities, and they pretty much hunt the rogue vampires. To become a vampire, you need to petition the archangel within that rules your continent, and they say yes or no. You're tested as well. And once you become a vampire, you are in servitude for a certain amount of years to serve your archangel or your master that's been assigned to you. What the guild hunters do is they hunt down those rogue vampires. So we follow Elena Devereaux, who's the best. Elena is tasked with helping find a murderer who has been killing humans. It takes off from there. There's a lot that happens within this book, and the first few novels in the Guild Hunter series follows Elena and Raphael's story, their journey together, and the rest follow the other that are part of Raphael's employ, I guess you could say. We are at the end. We are now at Sagittarius. Saving the best for last. I'm a Sagittarius. We have November 22nd to the December 21st. They are philosophical, free-spirited, unfiltered, and wanderlusting. Element is fire, obviously. Ruler is Jupiter, and their symbol is the archer or the centaur. So first we'll talk about the one that I cannot find. I know I have it. I cannot find it. So I'll insert a photo like I've been doing this whole time. And we're going to talk about Stark Lover. And it's the first book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood. And Dark Lover, like I said, is the first one. And we are following, Wrath is the last pure vampire left on the planet. And he is out to get revenge for the slayers who killed his parents centuries ago. But when his best friend dies, leaving Beth, his daughter, orphaned, Wrath kind of puts his revenge plot to the side to help Beth integrate into this world as a half-breed. Then we have the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks, the first being the Black Prism. I'm just gonna read the blurb. Guile is the Prism, the most powerful man in the world. He is High Priest and Emperor, a man whose power, wit, and charm are all that prevents a tenacious peace. Yet, prisms never last, and Guile knows exactly how long he has left to live. When Guile discovers he is a son, born in a far kingdom after the war that put him in power, he must decide how much he's willing to pay to protect a secret that could tear his world apart. The magic system in here, Brent Weeks really went out. Like, it's phenomenal. So if you think of a prism of light with the rainbow, that's pretty much where the power comes in. People can draft certain colors within this world, and Guile, who is the prism, means that he can control all spectrums of light without needing spectacles, whereas other people can draft one or more colors but never all of them. And Guile, throughout the story, he's starting to see in black and white. He's slowly losing color, which means he can't draft color. So we follow Kip, who is his son. It's absolutely phenomenal. Next, we have Kiss of Deception, which is the first book in the Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. This book was so good. It was the first of its kind that I had read. So we follow a princess who is betrothed to someone, and she runs away. So the prince is tasked with bringing her back, but also outcasted group of people, also like rebellious, I guess you could say. They kind of govern themselves. They send an assassin after her as well. And when she meets these two men, we don't know who is who. So she describes them, but previous to seeing them, we don't know who they are. So we don't know who the prince is, and we don't know who the assassin is. Two more to talk about, and we are finished. So first is the Fallen Kingdom series by Morgan Rhodes. This is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite series of all time, and I'm just gonna read the back because I think that's the best description. It doesn't give a whole lot, it gives just enough. This is in the world of Mythica. Aranos, Limeros, and Hesea are all kingdoms. Privileged Princess Cleo is forced to confront violence for the first time in her life when a shocking murder sets her kingdom on a path to collapse. The king's son, Magnus, must plan each footstep with shrewd, sharp guile if he is to earn his powerful father's trust, while his sister Lucia discovers a terrifying secret about her heritage that will change everything. Rebellious Jonas lashes out against the forces of oppression that have kept his country cruelly impoverished, and finds himself the leader of a people's revolution centuries in the making. Witches, if found, are put to death, and watchers, immortal beings who take the shape of hawks to visit the human world, have been almost entirely forgotten. A vicious power struggle quickly escalates to war, and four young people collide against one another, and the rise of Elementa, the magic that can topple kingdoms and crown a ruler in the same day. Another one that I highly recommend listening to the audiobooks for, and last but certainly not least, is the Valiant trilogy by Leslie Livingston. The first one being The Valiant. And this series, this trilogy is phenomenal. Princess Captive Gladiator. So we follow Fallon, who is the daughter of proud Celtic king, and her sister was a warrior. She got taken. So now on her 17th birthday, she sets out to follow in her sister's footsteps and earn her way into warband, but she never gets the chance as Fallon is captured, and she's eventually sold into Julius Caesar and one of his female gladiator war schools. They fight in the arena. We have a love interest that she meets there. I think he's one of the guards. It's her fighting for freedom. She meets a bunch of ladies that she connects with as well within this school of female gladiators. I think every single female in here is badass. I think that Fallon really comes into her own and gets a dose of reality within her own world, as well as a really fantastic way to live, in a sense that yes, she's a captor, but she finds freedom within her situation. She makes friends, has love in her heart. She's avenging her sister because she also knows that she's the sworn enemy of Julius Caesar and she was killed in battle. So if she is in one of his gladiator schools, she's eventually going to meet him, and she comes to this conclusion very, very quick, try and get revenge for her sister. So, all right. I hope you enjoyed this freaking video. It's taken me literally all day to film and it was fun. I don't regret it. As I said in the very beginning, that I was looking through these videos and there just wasn't enough options for me. But I hope you can choose between 5 novels within every single zodiac. And I hope you enjoy if you are participating in the spring equinox. I can't wait for that to start in a few weeks. But yeah, if you don't know what the Magical Readathon is, I will leave the announcement video for the spring equinox to G's channel, and you can find the original videos linked in her videos, or find them within her own YouTube channel. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!